Do you have a hard time saying no to new opportunities and ideas? And maybe you got so many things going that you're like, how am I going to get all of this done? And if saying no is hard for you, you might actually get a lot of value out of today's optimizing tip. Hi, I'm Melanie Benson Strick. I'm America's leading small business optimizer. And this is a weekly show that I've dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and small business owners all over the world learn the little tiny things they can do differently to get huge shifts in their business results. And my focus is on your mindset, the way you think about being successful, your productivity habits, are you doing the right things in the right order to get the right results, and the business strategies that you could be putting into place for leverage and optimum success. And normally I'm interviewing somebody, but once in a while I'll come in and give you an optimization tip, little things that I've learned along the way and that I've coached and mentored probably close to hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs by now. And I've got one today that I think is really going to help you. So what I want to talk about today is creativity addiction. Now, none of us like to think we're addicts, right? Like, come on, we're bigger, smarter, more capable than that. But the truth of it is, as entrepreneurs, oftentimes we get caught up in the energy boost and the adrenaline rush we get from creating something and seeing it get out there in the world. And creativity addiction is an interesting dynamic. Creativity addiction is, in essence, the inability to discern between what really needs to get our time and attention and what's just a cool idea. And we're so caught up in the energy of creating more stuff, and it's almost like we might be living in the illusion that by creating more stuff, we're going to be more successful. Well, the truth is, it doesn't matter how much we create, it's what we sell. And it's how do we feel on the journey? Like, how fulfilled are we? How many lives are we touching? Are we really doing things that matter and add value? And one of the downsides of creativity addiction that I've seen is that oftentimes you get stuff out that's not that great. Or maybe it's great, but there's so much stuff people don't know really what to do. So here's the real problem with creativity addiction is that you've got so much stuff going on, you can't manage it all. And you've got things falling in the cracks and you've got a lot of stuff, but it's not really making you enough money. And the time and effort it takes to manage these different things that you're creating is not necessarily paying off because you got a lot of stuff, but maybe it's not really making you enough money. And for most people who have creativity addiction, it's certainly not profitable. So we all know that most entrepreneurs struggle with this. We're visionaries, we're creatives, like we get juiced from our ideas. So how do you know what should get out there and what shouldn't? I have something called the green light formula. And what that means is you really look at what ideas should get the green light to be put into action. You're going to invest not only your time, but you're probably going to pay people to design graphics and marketing materials and to support fulfilling them on this planet, right? And needless to say, if you've got too much stuff and you've got too many people doing too many different things, you're not going to have enough traction. So the green light formula is a way of evaluating an idea before you put time, money, and energy into it. And you're going to ask yourself things like, all right, so what's it actually going to take to make this profitable? Is this something that is in alignment with our goals? Is putting time and attention into this going to meet the needs of the people that I'm serving, or am I going to have to go out and find a new audience? You're going to be looking at things like, all right, so if we do this, what are we going to say no to? Because obviously, it's going to take time and energy and budget away from something else, another endeavor. And is it the most highest and best use of my time and our team's time to move this forward? This is where I think we oftentimes get into the bottlenecks. As an entrepreneur and an emerging leader, you have to start learning how to make really smart decisions for your time, your money, and your energy. Because if you don't, you're going to waste it, or you're going to invest in things that can't or won't pay off. So getting really good at making decisions before you leap in is a great thing to consider. So let's say you do go through the green light formula, and if you need help with that, I teach that in the Get Out of Overwhelm program, so you can go check that out at the links below. But let's say you do decide you want to move forward on it. here's another thing you need to consider. Because a lot of us can rationalize and justify why something new should be developed. But then you have to ask yourself, where does it fit in the arc of all the different offerings I already have? And how am I going to move people in and out of these different things so that I don't spend an enormous amount of time having to market and sell every single little thing I do? Because that is not optimized, is it? That requires a lot more energy than most of us have to give. And, when you're marketing every single little thing you do, you're not going to be able to get the best results. You're going to have stuff sitting on the shelf that's not going anywhere. So I think a really important question that a lot of people don't stop to ask, or they just kind of get so in the rush that they're not willing to slow down and ask these really profound, powerful questions of themselves. And that is, where does it fit? How's it going to flow? How am I going to position it within my other offerings? Does it really make sense to put this in the mix? Am I going to go after a completely new audience, or is this something that I can move my people into? I'll share with you, I made a catastrophic mistake a few years back. You might have heard me talk about it if you are regularly connected to the different things that I talk about here. But I made a huge mistake. I knew that there was something that I was really good at, and that is I know how to help people who are emerging as a leader or kind of stuck at a certain level of six-figure success, and they've got their eyes on the next level, but they're bottlenecking their growth, right? I knew that. I had really, really great tools to help them with that evolution they're going through. And I built a program and a live event to serve them. And it was great. It was called the CEO Factor. It's a great resource, powerful tool. But I didn't do enough of my research to see how it was going to flow in the arc of what I already did. And I made some major assumptions along the way. I assumed that a significant amount of the people in my community were hungry for this. And what I discovered was it was an enormous amount of work to get people into the experience because they weren't necessarily on my list. I had a lot of people, but they weren't ready for that information. They were still in the I'm trying to figure it all out stage. And so I had a mismatch between something I was excited about and passionate about and a great idea, and everybody said, you should do it, but it didn't fit the arc of how I serve my community. And so it didn't really do well. It actually put me in a lot of financial chaos. And it was 6 to 8 months of work that just went down the drain. And, it was a really humbling moment. It didn't feel good, I'll be honest with you. And it was really, it was a great lesson to learn. That just because you have a great idea doesn't mean it's the right time or that you can just put it out and it's going to work. If it's a great idea and you got to put it out there, then you have to build the momentum and the movement and the community who's going to be hungry for it. And I didn't do a good job of that. And I learned a lot about it. It really changed and transformed how I did it, how I get new ideas launched in the future. So have you had one of those experiences too, where you put a lot of time and energy into something and then you realize on the back end, wow, this should not have ever gotten my time and attention. Or you realize God, I'm working so hard to keep all these balls in the air and the plates spinning, and there could be an easier way to do all this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the show page here. So if you're here on the blog with me at melaniebensonstrick.com, tell me, what's been your experience with this? Share it in the comments below. And if you're tuning in from iTunes or Stitcher Radio or one of our other partners out there and you'd like to come share with me a little bit about your experience with this, you head over to melaniebensonstrick.com. You can find this episode on the blog. And let me know what's up for you around it and what do you think you need to do differently in the future. I can tell you right now that just asking better questions before you leap into designing and creating something new can not only save you valuable time and energy, but it can actually make you a much more profitable and powerful entrepreneur. I'll see you again next week when I bring back one of our special guests who's going to share with you how they optimize their business. See you next week.